The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Good crack-a-noon to our friends on the East Coast. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive. Joined alongside me virtually is Tanner Harrison, Sales Engineer from Watchguard. And we are going to talk about Authpoint, MFA, and why it is so important for your security posture. So if you've been to our web events, you know how we do it. You meet Productive in 1 minute, and then we get off the microphone and get right into the content. So we're going to talk about, or Tanner's going to talk about, all the great things about MFA, about risk-based authentication, push-based, how it checks your devices, role-based user profiles, and how you can set policy based upon geography and role to really tighten down access and improve your overall security posture. But first, let's meet Productive in 1 minute. Who is Productive, you say? Well, I'm very glad you asked. Productive is a company that provides security solutions for mid-sized companies. We have specialized expertise to answer technical and licensing questions. We also implement, test, and optimize everything that we sell, whether that's a security assessment. We do Active Directory security services. We can do config assistance and UTM services. And we're also there. We also build a lot of third-party content like today's presentation. All of this is on our website at productivecorp.com/solving security. Bottom line is we have the resources that can help you, whether that's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services. We're here to help. Use the email if you want to get a hold of us, help@productivecorp.com. If you still have a rotary phone, dial 612-375-0204. It's great to hear the wheels spinning. So with that, let's get right to it. So at the top of the broadcast, I mentioned we have Tanner Harrison from Watchguard here. He's out of the Seattle area. He told me it's getting back to very Seattle-like weather, which I think he's loving it. And he's going to talk MFA. And when he's not talking about MFA, he's enjoying their big Bernese. I don't know if it's a Bernedoodle. Maybe it's just, but we have a golden doodle, so we're chatting a little bit about that. But let's give a warm virtual round of applause for Mr. Tanner Harrison. Tanner, how you doing?
Hello. I'm doing fantastic.
All right.
It's good to be on here and good to be talking about MFA.
Yeah.
And you just shared. Okay, perfect. So I'll go ahead and grab that here. Just so you guys know, I have a really quick PowerPoint just to go over. I hate PowerPoints. I like to get into the meat and bone and things, but I like to make sure that everyone understands, the MFA side of things, what Authpoint is, and then we'll dive into the actual web console and what it looks like. So Authpoint in itself is a fully cloud-based solution. So it's a very easy and simple management interface, and you'll see a lot more of that as we go on here. Just as a quick review, what MFA or what Watchguard can do to protect your users. Really, MFA is designed to protect against credential theft. Most of you already know that. So, if a password is included in a data breach, someone's using a weak password, that really won't matter, because with MFA implemented to protect your cloud applications, your computers, the attacker won't be able to get into those endpoints or into your cloud applications that you're protecting. So with that, Watchguard in itself, we protect a multiple different types of solutions. So we can protect cloud environments, we can protect local identities, whether that's servers, computers, laptops. We have risk-based authentication, as Todd mentioned, and then also with enterprise deployments, we can do multiple types of endpoint protection, VPN, portals, and agents for like ADFS. Some common use cases, so as we go through the web console, just kind of be thinking about this in your head. We can protect the server logins, like I mentioned. Any sort of cloud application, so we have a single sign-on portal for, hundreds of cloud applications. Anything that really supports SAML 2.0 is supported with Authpoint, and you can implement that to protect those cloud applications. We even can use remote access protection, so for VPN access to your Watchguard firewalls, to other third-party endpoints. We can even do compliance checks for those computers. So there's a lot of use cases that you can really implement MFA just to provide an extra layer of security to your users within the network or outside the network. One feature, as mentioned in the agenda, was our anti-cloning feature. With Authpoint in itself, in our mobile application, which I'll show soon, we actually have an anti-cloning feature which prevents attackers if a phone was stolen or a hardware key was stolen. No one's going to be able to clone that device over to another Android device or iPhone in order to steal those codes off your phone for MFA. So it really negates any sort of attack that may feature some sort of clone of the one-time passphrases. And we also support, like I mentioned, third-party hardware tokens, and we have our own Watchguard tokens. So there's multiple methods of authenticating to both your VPNs, cloud applications. We allow for it all, I would say. Along with the agents, they're fully developed. So you have ADFS agents, the Windows and Mac OS agents, and RD Web. So if you're using an RD Web server, you can definitely put Authpoint in front of there to protect those logins to other devices within the network. And let's go ahead and get into the Authpoint web console. Let me minimize this here really quickly. So Watchguard being a cloud application, it's all controlled through what's called Watchguard Cloud. So it's a very simple interface that you can navigate through and then also manage any other Watchguard service through. But through Authpoint itself, we'll go through a few of the resources and then show you the protection with the mobile application. With the mobile application, let me make sure my phone's unlocked so you can actually see what I'm doing here. Screen mirroring. Here we go. So showing you the Watchguard mobile application. This is generally what is used most of the time by users. It's very similar to any other authenticator you might see, like the Google Authenticator, or any else that you might use. You can link third-party tokens in this Watchguard application, and then you also have your Watchguard tokens. And these could be used in multiple ways. So you see the progress bar, that is essentially your one-time password. Every 30 seconds that refreshes and changes that 6-digit code. You can use the QR scanner in that top right-hand corner, and that enables you to do an offline method of authentication. And then you can also receive push notifications directly to your phone. An example of a push notification here, let me go ahead and connect to my remote desktop here. And this could be simulated for as if I was logging into a laptop or a server. But logging in here, I get a few different options. And this is what I have on my corporate laptop as well. So it's the same logon app that you'll see on Linux or a Mac host. But a few things to talk through. Push notification, it's generally the easiest. It's really just send a push notification over to your phone and you have to accept the message. I'll show you that here in a moment. The QR code, like I was saying, you can scan this to generate a one-time password, or you can just enter in the one-time password that you have on your phone. The difference between these three methods is that one-time password and QR code are offline options, and then the push notification is online, so you have to have an internet connection for that. An example of situations you might use one-time password or QR code is like on an airplane, right? So when I'm traveling, I'm not going to be able to get a push notification to my phone in a reasonable amount of time when connected to an airline satellite internet connection. So I have to use QR code or one-time passphrase to get into my phone in order to actually log in. But at least for push notifications, just to show you how easy it is, when you select send a push, let me jump back over to my phone here. Almost immediately, I get a notification directly back to my phone saying, hey, who's trying to sign in? My account, Tony Stark. I use Marvel characters and Disney characters for almost all of my lab environment. But Tony Stark, that's an Active Directory user account that I'm trying to log in with. Where I'm logging in from, Sumner, Washington, to my AD server, so it's a Windows 2019 standard, the IP address of that, and then the server that I'm trying to log into. And it timed out here, so let me send myself another push, and I just denied it. Here we go. Bring back up my phone. Oh, accidentally denied it. So on a denied attempt, this is actually a good way to show you what happens when you are not trying to log in and it's actually someone that is an attacker trying to access your phone. So in this case, I denied the attempt, so I'm not even allowed to access the server. But if it was me, in this case, I'll just accept the push notification, hit approve, and then I'm immediately logged into that endpoint. So it's incredibly easy. That's all that the end user has to do. So it's really straightforward. Same thing with a VPN as well. So when you're logged in with a VPN, you'll get a push notification directly to your phone. You can even accept it on your Apple Watch. So if you have an Apple Watch or Android Watch, this application works with that. So it's very simple for a user to look at it or look at their watch and then hit the accept or deny button. And that's really MFA. So it's the multiple steps of authentication. You know, something you know, which is your password, something you are, the biometrics on the phone, and then something you have. So my phone itself, or the token. Going back over to Authpoint here, there's several different resources you can use to protect Auth or your applications with. Like I mentioned during the PowerPoint, we have integration guides for hundreds of SAML applications or cloud applications. And when I say hundreds, there is a long list of applications that we support with Authpoint. So if you see any of them while I'm scrolling through here, I mean, just as an example, click on Amazon. We have a full integration guide for how you can implement that in order to protect that application. This also allows you to implement an IDP portal or a single sign-on portal for this application, where the users are logging in and then they can click on a tile to access that specific application, whatever it may be. And with the guide too, it steps you through everything you might need from that application. So an ID or a URL that may be needed. So it's very straightforward on how to get that information from those cloud applications. The IDP portal, like I was talking about, that's the single sign-on portal. When you're using Authpoint, you get a specific URL, so you can customize this to whatever your business name is. And with that, you can use your login, so your Active Directory login. In this case, I'll use my Tony Stark account. Again, log into this Tony Stark account. And through here is where I can also, like as before, receive a push notification. So this is me trying to log in. I'll go ahead and log in. And usually there will be a list of SAML applications that you can access. So depending on how many SAML applications you have, they'll be listed here. But it's easy as selecting a device or one of those tiles, and then you can access your applications that you have linked to Authpoint.
Hey,
And that automatically signs you in. Yep.
so could this replace any of your other authenticators, right? So you just have one? I mean, is there?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay.
Yep, this is designed to be a single sign-on portal. So it's an easy way that users can log in and just click on maybe like Office 365, and it logs them into Office 365 for you. So it's really, you don't have to, you don't have to jump to every single site, log in. It's a single sign-on portal.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. And I see the question there too. If you're using multiple authenticators like Microsoft, Google, okay, yes. And yes, for the authenticator part, sorry, I misunderstood the question there. So if you're using multiple authenticators like Microsoft and Google, you can replace that with just the Authpoint application. So just as an example, these third-party tokens, as long as you can, or the web service has that QR code that you can scan, you can implement it in here. So I have a lot of third-party apps that I use. Even my Facebook is linked directly here. And some of my gaming accounts. I'll keep a watch over the questions for any more that come in. Now, as far as linking identities to the cloud, we support LDAP and we also support Azure AD. So as long as you have an Active Directory environment, you can import that entire Active Directory structure to the cloud. Or if you don't, you can create manual users. So you don't have to have LDAP users. You can have an Authpoint user. It just, with Active Directory, it'll make the configuration a little bit easier, because with Active Directory, you can actually import groups, or what we call group sync, where it really just does a query against or a bind against your Active Directory server, and it pulls all the available groups for that server. And then you can actually import the users based off of group membership. So it's incredibly easy. So you can see the list here of the users I have. I mean, if I wanted to, I could import a teachers group. I could import a tier 1 users group, which I will do right now. So I'll create that group, and then probably in about a minute or two, we'll start seeing users pop up in my user screen. So getting users added into the cloud, getting those identities into the cloud is incredibly easy. Managing them is also easy because they're associated directly with your Active Directory groups. Now with that, we have what's called authentication policies. This just gives you as an admin a lot more flexibility on how you can manage those user groups, what they have access to, and then also if you wanted to implement some sort of geolocation or kinetics type of policies, you can do that. What I mean by policy objects or kinetics is that with Authpoint, as an example, when I go into Watchguard corporate headquarters in Seattle, I don't want to, I don't want to have to bring my laptop in there, use MFA in order to get into my laptop when I'm sitting behind our firewall and on our protected network, right? It feels kind of silly to me to do that. So you can implement specific policy objects to allow or bypass MFA while behind a protected network. And then as soon as I bring my laptop out of that office, I'm required to use MFA again in order to access my laptop. It's like if I'm back on the plane again, I use MFA. And that really prevents, it for one, allows a better user experience, so I don't have to, be authenticating to my computer every time I'm in the office. But two, once that computer leaves, if it was ever stolen, no one else is going to be able to access it except for me. So I know my passwords are secure. That laptop is secure, and really, since they're using mobile device management, they can remotely wipe that computer if needed. So it just makes the user experience a lot better overall. But within these policies itself, they look a lot like a firewall rule, where you can specify specific groups that you like a policy to use. So in this case, tier 1 users is an LDAP group on my server. I'm telling it what resource I can access. And in this case, I'm only allowing passwords, so it's bypassing MFA. If I wanted to, I could select all 4 of those options. And then at that point, it's requiring MFA for my users to access my M370 or for the VPN. Yeah, and that's also another thing to mention. With our WatchGuard firewalls, we have a direct integration with Authpoint.
Hey, so would this be a direct? Could you replace Duo Mobile or Go Mobile with this?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, we're about I would say 90% feature parity with Duo, but with a lot lower of a cost and a lot easier to manage. So, and there is a lot of new features that are coming. Come January or February of 2022, there will be a password manager that is implemented with the single sign-on portal. So not just SAML applications will be supported, but it will be any website. So as long as it's a working web server, then you can implement that web server with the single sign-on portal. So it just allows for a better, also across the board, like I'm going to say over and over and over, a simple and easy user experience.
Cool, thanks.
So yeah. So authentication policies, touched on that. Let's see here. So the users, like I mentioned, you can do LDAP users, you can do manually created users, and for the users, you can have multiple tokens assigned per the user account. So it doesn't matter if they have just one token or multiple tokens. Like you saw on my phone, I have multiple tokens, and I could associate that with a single user account. So with licensing on Authpoint, it's not a per token, it's a per user license. And there's different tiers of it as well. So as long as you, the more that is purchased, the cheaper it costs. And there's only one license, or well, 2 technically, a 1-year and a 3-year term. So you can get every feature with Authpoint for a low cost and on a term basis. Along with all the software, the onboarding process is very easy. Users will receive an email with a direct link to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. And then all of the Authpoint software that you may need is included under the downloads. So ADFS, RDWeb, those agents I showed you in the PowerPoint, the gateway installer, and then the logon app, which is used to protect those servers and desktops with that MFA. One thing to note about Authpoint is that you do not need a NPS server or an external Radius server. All of that is handled by Authpoint itself. So really, the only deployment that you're doing is trying to find out if you need to use the logon app or if that's a requirement for your network, and then either implementing VPN access or other identity access for your applications. The gateway installer, the gateway is used as a sync between your Active Directory and the cloud for those users. It can also act as a Radius server, so you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to use MPS or another Radius server. So really it's just a lightweight gateway or lightweight agent that runs. And that's really it. Along with some of the wizards you can do through the cloud portal, it'll step you through configuring a VPN, for example, configuring the logon app or the MFA for those computers and servers. We provide those tools for you just to get started with Authpoint because it is, I mean, incredibly easy. Like you see, like I just showed you, it's really just a few screens. So just adding the resource that you're protecting, making sure those users are imported from your Active Directory or Azure AD, and then making sure that you have a authentication policy in place, like a firewall rule, right? So you want a firewall rule in order to allow those specific types of authentication.
And Tanner, how often does that? So like my Active Directory, right? Somebody changes, somebody leaves. Is that updating in real time with Authpoint, or how does that? How long is there latency on that, or?
That is updated in real time. So as soon as there's a structure change to Active Directory, the user, depending on the user, it will go into a quarantine state within this web portal. So they will not be able to authenticate to their resources or their VPN as soon as a change is made. And usually when you're offboarding or someone's leaving, you'll place them or delete the user, place them into a different group or delete the user. And after that change, it's reflected here.
Okay, yeah, because that's right. Because that's probably what somebody's going to do, right? They're going to go to Active Directory or that structure, right, and move them, change their role, whatever, right, and then just go into one place makes it a lot easier. Yep. Cool. That's awesome. I like this thing. And you said it's more competitive from a price standpoint than Duo and some of the others.
Yes.
That are out there, and looks like it's super easy to get up and live, and offers a ton of great benefits. Any last thoughts here? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up and give folks a couple minutes back in their day.
The last thoughts. I mean, with the new MFA mandate, some insurance companies are requiring MFA in order to protect the network, in order to actually get an insurance policy. So make sure you check with your insurance. Make sure they actually are protected with cybersecurity insurance. And then other than that, I would just encourage you to use MFA for your web applications, VPNs, any sort of environment that a user might access that could potentially an intruder or an attacker could leverage to either exfiltrate data or use the login maliciously.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's great stuff. Well, thanks, Tanner, for a fantastic presentation, and everybody else, thanks for hopping on today. We really appreciate it.